Hey everyone, this is Tim in Fort Wayne with my two friends, Jason and Gabrielle. I'm actually a little nervous about this conversation because it's like hanging out with brothers and sisters who I told them what to say and they nodded their heads and then shook their heads. So I really don't know what they're going to say. I hope it's really good. I'm sure it'll be really good, but it's been a joy to do ministry here in Fort Wayne with them. Just real quick, when I think about how to have a stronger C in the YMCA for our YMCA, Greater Fort Wayne. I mean, there's a lot of amazing ways to do that. But one is to partner with really good churches, being with good Christian churches who meet in the Y, Christian churches that partner alongside the Y, Christian churches that believe in the Y. That really matters a lot. And it's important for the YMCA to believe in churches. YMCAs need awesome churches and awesome churches need YMCAs. We're in this together. So, in the early days when we had church rentals, and then we really wanted to transition to church covenants. And so what that meant was just this really dynamic relationship where there was three wins, a win-win-win relationship. We wanted this to be a win for the YMCA in the church that came in. We wanted this to be a win for the church and meeting in our YMCA. And then together, we wanted to be a win for the community. And so I'm biased. I think it's happening definitely with these two amazing leaders. And so my goal for today is for you to get to know them and hear a bit about why they do what they do, their point of view, which I told them what to say, but we'll see what they really say. But at the same time, hopefully it'll spark some ideas for you. And then in the dialogue time, you can kind of discuss with others. And of course, we'll provide contact info so you can always follow up with them directly and to pick their brains because this time is going to go fast. So real quick, Jason, I'll let you go first since you and I started first. We built a YMCA and your church started in there, and it was a little rocky at first, and then it turned out to be pretty awesome. And so why don't you just tell us just real brief a bit about you and why you love doing what you're doing with the YMCA. And then Gabrielle, you're next.
Yeah, so I'm Jason Morris. I am the senior pastor of First Wayne Street United Methodist Church in downtown Fort Wayne, which is just about less than a block away from the Central Branch YMCA. But my connection with the YMCA actually started with Tim and Tabitha Irvin, who I saw on this call at the Jackson Lehman YMCA, which was a new YMCA that was built. And the church that I had been appointed to, St. Joseph United Methodist Church, had long time plans and conversations about what it would look like to launch a worshiping and faith community in the YMCA. About the time that was getting ready to start happening, I had been doing some church planting assessments to try and get money from our denomination to do something else somewhere else. So I like to think about I didn't necessarily choose the Y, but through the movement of the Spirit, the Y chose me, I guess. And it was just a really kind of unique partnership. So Tim was actually one of the first people in Fort Wayne that I met. So before I even moved here, we were already having conversations of what it could look like to build a partnership from the ground up, rather than being an existing church coming into the Y. And so what that would look like. And the reality is that we kind of built it as we went because neither one of us had done it that way before. And so we made a lot of mistakes, but we got a lot of things right too. And I think the Y, just with its commitment to being for all, creates a safe space for people. I think about how intimidating it can be to walk into a church. It can be just as intimidating to walk into a gym for the first time. So we would see that a lot, that maybe people were a little nervous coming into the Y to work out. And then they saw, oh, there's a church that meets here. I'm already comfortable in this place. Or people found the church first and then got memberships to the Y. So it just creates a really unique opportunity. And for me, trying to be an inclusive pastor, the YMCA creates a beautiful environment for that to happen.
So good.
And then I left and left it for Gabrielle to clean up the mess.
Well, hey, that's a nice segue, Jason. You were on track to that last comment, so come on, man. But Gabrielle, man, what a joy to meet you, and you kind of surprised everyone with your amazing ministry at the Jorgensen Family YMCA, and you just never looked back from just bringing that love of Jesus to people. So why don't you introduce yourself just a little bit and kind of how you got into doing what you're doing?
Awesome. So, hi everybody. This is like really exciting and weird because I've met so many of you up in Silver Bay, and it's like friends. It's really cool. So I had been asked to do on the other side of Fort Wayne a prayer table, which I had done for a year and a half, and really just fell in love with people and the opportunities that hosting a prayer table provided. And when Jason left, which was about 2.5 years ago, so we are United Methodist pastors, and so we get appointed. So Jason was moved, and I had become such a spokesperson and a lover of the Y that when that space became available, it kind of seemed natural that I got appointed to that. So I inherited 2.5 years in. It was in the middle of COVID, but I did benefit from all the hard work that Tim and Jason did to lay a foundation and really have some momentum there. So I've been 2.5 years in. I tell people it's more been like 1.5 years because we lost a year in there because of COVID. Like Jason, like when you walk in, the mission for the Y on the wall is a healthy body, mind, spirit for all. And Jesus says, love God and love others. And those two things go together so well. We have Tabitha on the call, an amazing exec who encourages, blesses, partners, all the things that we get to do together. And so I think, especially in the past 6 months, it's just been this beautiful partnership in my tenure there of we just serve together. We just love people together.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you two are both really involved in your branch. You're both on the advisory board. You both have really close relationships you cultivated with the executive director. You both spend time praying, at a table in the Y. You have a presence there. Lots of staff, lots of members. I mean, you have a church you're leading, but it seems to me like you also see that whole Y space as just part of your church. Like it's just one big extension, which, does allow you to say you're pastor of like 17,000 people. I mean, I think that's definitely a cool little perk. How many people get to say that? But what for you, Jason will go first and then Tabitha or Gabrielle, what would you say is like different about being a pastor in the Y when you walk into that space? And I mean, what are some of the things you get to do that maybe is a little bit different?
Well, that's a really kind of an interesting question to kind of wrestle with, because it's we get to interact with people that we would not normally interact with. I think the commitment of being for all means that members of every faith background or no faith background find the Y to be a safe and comfortable place. And so we have the opportunity to interact with people who are not going to walk through the doors of a traditional church. And so that broadens my understanding of our community and what the needs are in our community, what the hurt and the pain and the brokenness in our community is. So when I stand at a prayer table, we get prayer requests from everyone from an atheist to practicing Muslims and Hindus or whatever it is, and evangelical Christians, progressive Christians, and everybody in between. But I really think part of that core is in the relationships. And so when I was at JRL, I had a trusted relationship with Tabitha, and that was really important. And Tim, you helped pave the way for a lot of connections with staff and other people. We had really great support from our CEO and Marty Pastura. And then in going downtown and having to build a new relationship with a new executive who maybe was a little cautious, but just having people who were in your corner. So Tabitha vouching for me, Tim vouching for me, that relationship, when people see the executive director of your branch being supportive and encouraging of you, it creates trust. So I just think it's the interaction with people that I would not be interacting with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
and I hope I'm not jumping the gun, but the same thing often brings a little bit of caution too, right? I've got a table that says, do you need encouragement, prayer? And I have a name tag, says I'm the pastor. And, people don't know what it is. And they kind of walk up to the table and they see prayer or pastor and they immediately kind of get like this. And I'm super cautious to say, hey, you have a Yankee hat on, you're a Yankee fan, or just like begin really light conversation, because people worry that, we're going to cram the Bible down their throat or something. So it's relational, like exactly like Jason said, which takes time. It takes time for people to develop some trust and know that we genuinely care about what's going on in their lives and want to pray for them. And because we are for all, we do that respectfully and carefully and not like running ahead of where people are. And some people are all in, like with Jesus, and some people are not, like Jason said. So it's navigating relationships carefully.
Yeah. What do you think your executive director would say is something special that this church YMCA relationship brings that just wouldn't be there if your church wasn't engaged? Is there something unique or dynamic that you think your executive director would say? So you're kind of speaking for him now, but Gabrielle, you can go first, and then Jason, you can jump in.
Okay, is Tabitha muted so she can't disagree? I would say two things. We've developed a close friendship, and so that kind of offers trust for people, because someday you'll have to ask Tabitha what her impression of me was. Like, Jason and I are completely different. Like, he's really cool, he's got guitars behind him, and I have boring books, and he's young and he skateboards and I'm not. And so like the change was so drastic between the two of us. But it took not long before Tabitha and I really developed a friendship and kind of trust each other. So when the staff sees that, that makes them feel better. And I'll just go back to the partnership. We get to sit down and talk about events, and we get to create like a panel for Welcome Week for immigrants. We get to do that together and brainstorm and meet people. And it's just this beautiful kind of dance together that we get to do. The other unique thing this past, I would say, year is that there's an increasing, the staff is really seeing me, the presence there as a trusted presence. So I can say to Tabitha, hey, I've been having this conversation, and she can pray for this person with me. We can give insight to each other, like without breaking confidentiality. But really, two's better than one. So yeah.
That's so good. Jason, what do you think Amanda would say about some of the special stuff you and your congregation bring to this relationship?
I think it would just be that we're embracing that whole idea that I think is both a characteristic and of the church, but also of the YMCA, of that understanding that we're better together. And so when we talk about doing things just as simple as like trunk or treat, that we had a greater impact in our community, served more people, had a better presence doing that together. But then also, I think, as Gabrielle mentioned, just that relationship and trust between the executive director and a chaplain type role in the branch builds trust to where all of a sudden those staff and members will come to you. And I think of a time in which, there was a staff member that was struggling, and another staff member said, well, hey, Jason's here, go talk to him. And they were kind of like, well, why? And they were like, well, because, Amanda told me to talk to him and it helped, so you should go talk to him, that. And so you kind of build on that, but that whole idea that we're better together. And there are so many things that the church can do that could benefit the Y, and there are a lot of things that the Y can do that the church can benefit from. So all of those things like grief support groups and, just the spirit, mind, body, all of those things that we can do together, and we can share our strengths and really create something beautiful that maybe helps bridge some gaps in our community.
That's so good. Well, we just have a few minutes left, so I'm going to just do some rapid fire questions. So we'll see if you guys can get some really quick, pithy write, people can write this stuff down. It's gonna be so wise. It's gonna be so wise, but they're gonna say it so fast and people will have to go back to the recording. But so just real brief. So for both of you, Jason and Gabrielle, let's say that, we got people on the call, they're part of a church and their church just happened. Their church is saying, we'd like to do more in the community. And, so we got people on the call, they're urging their pastor, hey, you should call your Y and see if maybe we can do something together, which, it's a vulnerable thing. It's not easy for a church to partner with someone else. It's hard for churches to partner in general, but let's say someone on the call, their church wants to do it. What do you think, what would you advise them to tell their pastor about this would be worth it? Like if we go in with this attitude and this posture, I think this could be a real win for the church. What would you advise the people on the call if they're going to urge their church and their pastor to draw closer? They don't have to meet in the church, they don't have to meet in the Y like yours does, but they're just going to partner closer. What would you tell them to tell their pastor?
I'd go to the executive director and say, what can we do? How can we help you by being a part of in the Y?
Yeah, I would say take that posture of how can we help rather than trying to impose our own ideas onto onto this vehicle of the Y.
No, that's good. So then we go the other way, right? So let's say a YMCA, we got people from the YMCA on the call, and look, we want to partner with the church. We see what Gabrielle and Jason are doing with Central Branch and Jackson Lehman. We would love to have that partnership with the church. What would you advise an executive director or, the Y leaders on this call? What would you advise them if you're going to go looking for churches to partner with? What would be some things to look for in those churches?
I would think first off is, do you really want to create a partnership or are you just looking for a space? And then I think also some of the core values of the YMCA, there are churches and pastors out there who would maybe struggle with some of those core values. And I think that there needs to be some just baseline agreement with that. And so if we're trying to be for all, let's just be honest, some of my clergy colleagues are not really for all. And so that's maybe not a good partner. And I think Janelle asked, how did you vet us? And Janelle, I'll answer that for Tim. He didn't. But basically,
we got lucky.
Yeah, no. I think that's a great kind of first thing is, do you want to be a partner? And can you accept our core values and a commitment to being for all?
Good. How about you, Gabrielle?
Yeah, it's a fine line because we're unequivocally, unapologetically, I am a Jesus follower, but Jesus says love everybody. So it's really easy, but it's not easy for a lot of people. So I think Jason's wisdom is great.
That's good.
We want the Y is a safe place for people, and we don't want the church to harm that. We want that church to enhance that.
Yeah. So maybe Janelle or Dory, you can tell me how many minutes I have left, because I have more questions I want to ask him, but 4 minutes. Whew, okay. 25 minutes. All right, here we go. So I could also hear a YMCA executive being nervous, like, well, if we partner more closely with a Christian church, will that be offensive to non-Christians or to people of other faiths? So a YMCA might want to do more with the church because of some neat opportunities, but they don't want to offend people, or they're afraid that it might cause controversy, or they're afraid that it actually, just make it more complicated. So what would you say, to a YMCA team that is like, wait a minute, can we have a deeper relationship with a Christian church and yet somehow be more for all? I mean, is that even possible? So Jason and then Gabrielle, how would you guys answer that?
That's a big question. I think I can understand that caution that one may have. I think that's where the relationships and the trust and the commitment to partnership and really that whole core value that Gabrielle just talked about of our understanding of what it means to love all. And I think that maybe what you do is start small and build trust. So rather than saying, yeah, you can start a church in here next Sunday, maybe just give some little things that you can do, because you'll find out really quickly whether or not that person's going to be a good match. So maybe say, hey, let's do this project together, or even say, you could be one of our prayer table hosts, and you can see how they interact with people, and you can shut that down really quickly. If you're the executive director or a manager on duty and you see somebody misrepresenting the Y, you just say, I'm sorry, we're done here. But to give opportunities to build trust is really important.
That's so good. How about you, Gabrielle?
One of the things we do with the JRL is we do a lot of we do like 4 or 5 big events a year, and they're crazy, like thousands. It's just nuts in there. So we were planning yesterday Christmas. What are we gonna do for Christmas? So we've got this whole escape room theme and all this stuff, and like we want the Christmas to be about the Jesus story. But I fully understand there are people in Y who that's not where they are. It's not my job to convince anyone, right? That's not, I mean, we love people, we show them Jesus, and the Holy Spirit does his thing. So we're gonna have a section of these rooms, and one of them is geared towards the Jesus story. If you want to go there and walk through that with your kids, that's great. But if you don't want to, we love you just the same. And so I think that's a real way, as execs converse with churches, like how do you see the for all as you're doing this? That's just an example.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, just so kind of close then, all 3 of us are pretty biased. We all believe that we believe in the church, we believe in the YMCA. We really believe that they need each other, we're not turning back. Like this is something we just want to keep doing as long as we're doing it. But the premise is that we're trying to be Christ's presence in the Y. Like the congregation meeting there, you being there is a way to be Christ's presence. And either one of you just give a real quick example of like, how do you see that happening? Like what's a quick story or illustration that for you keep going back to that. This is happening. We are being Christ's presence here. And we want to keep doing this. Either of you have a quick example you want to share?
Yeah, so we're offering Grief Share, which is a faith-based curriculum on going through grief. And a woman at the meeting last week asked our leaders, her husband had just passed away. Is there anything the church can do to help? Because I've got some projects around my home. Well, 20 of us are going to her house on Saturday. Like that to me is the beauty of what the Y offers and what the church is designed to be. And like she walked into this space and we are able to walk into her life and help in real tangible ways. So that's just been a great part. That just for me this week has been really profound.
Yeah, that's good. Jason?
Yeah, I think about something that I see happening within the relationships of folks within the branch that I'm at now downtown. And we have a guy, we call him Fireman Bob because his name is Bob and he's a fireman. And he got sick, really sick with the coronavirus. And he was, they were calling in family and saying, your days are numbered. And as soon as we found out, the executive director put something out, pray for Bob. And people were sending him cards. And last Monday, Bob stopped by the prayer table and we talked for about 45 minutes. And he was telling me how he received over 400 cards from people that he knew from the YMCA. And his wife was reading them to him through a window. And she would say, who's this person? And he would say, oh, I know them from the Y. They are this. He knew who every single person was, and he had a connection with them, and he knew that they were praying for him. But one of the things that's really neat is that he said the most powerful card he received was from a young man named Justin, who is a special needs adult who is in our lobby most days of the week. And he said the card from Justin saying that he was praying for me and that he loved me, it just changed him. And Bob said, I came to understand what grace means as I was laying on a bed and my wife was reading cards from Y members to me. And I think that's what it's all about, is creating a safe place where people can build connections, whether Jesus is at the center of it or not. That's what it's all about.
Well, now you're making me cry. This is getting socially awkward. So we need to wrap up this interview before it gets worse. So I can't trust you guys. Oh my gosh. Well, hey, everyone, thanks for letting me interview Jason and Gabrielle. This is man, I can't tell you how grateful I am to work with them. And I hope all of you can find awesome pastors to work with, awesome churches. It takes constant attention. I'll tell you that. These two, I got to watch them like a hawk. You know, you look at them for a second and who knows what'll happen. But yeah, I say, I mean, it's not easy. You know, churches go through stuff. Pastors go through stuff, and but it's worth it. So I just want to encourage you, if you guys ever want to have more conversations about it, feel free to contact me or Jason or Gabrielle or lots of other people in the Y movement. So that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Gabrielle and Jason. That was amazing.